This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources. Consistent with its Running Right process, Alpha is an energy company committed to being a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward. We fuel progress around the world. More information at alphanr.com.
Haley Buick GMC, the place for a new Verano or Terrain Denali, on Midlothian Turnpike in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. Taking it to the streets and helping our community. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community, working in legislative, regulatory, and political arenas to promote the free enterprise system. Information at vachamber.com.
It's amazing what my students with special needs can accomplish. Their pride is priceless. That's why I teach.
Brought to you by the Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.
Welcome to This Week in Richmond, and a very special welcome to the Governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe. We appreciate your being on This Week in Richmond to talk with our viewers around the Commonwealth about what's happening, economic development, transportation, healthcare, workforce, all the different issues that you're working on. We'll tell our viewers that we're having the conversation on June 1st. And by the time some of them are seeing this, you'll be on a trade mission.
Yeah, I'm heading off to about 6 countries around, going to Germany, going to London, headed to Paris for the air show. We'll be in Sweden. We're going to close some major deals, which is important, bringing new jobs to Virginia.
Well, look forward to getting those updates, so they'll be happening during that time. But the work that you're doing on a new economy in Virginia and some of the ways you're expressing that, tell the viewers what it means and what you're working on.
Listen, when I ran for governor, I talked about economic development, talked about diversifying the economy every single day, building what I call the new Virginia economy. Because we need to do that, David. We're in a very vulnerable position. We are the #1 recipient of Department of Defense dollars. Of all 50 states, we get more money than any other state. It's great when they're spending money, but when you now have sequestration, you have defense cuts. Virginia saw between the years 2010, 11, and 12, $9.8 billion in cuts in defense. Now, my job as governor is to preserve all of our federal assets and to grow them. We just did a huge announcement the other day. Fort Pickett, federal government just picked us $461 million investment to train all security personnel. But we also have to realize with the changing federal budget that we have to build cybersecurity, human genome sequencing. What I talk about are the new 21st century jobs. So I spend a tremendous amount of my time bringing new businesses to Virginia, helping the businesses that are here grow, but making sure we're less reliant on the Defense Department and have new business. Dorothy and I want our 5 children to stay in Virginia. In order for that to happen, you have to have those jobs of the 21st century. We've been very successful, as you know. We're about 400 projects since I became governor. We've done about $6.7 billion of capital investment, which has shattered any record any governor of Virginia history has done. I focus on jobs, I focus on economic development. It's what I ran on, and it's what I'm doing.
You know, you hear parents all over the Commonwealth, whether they're in Southwest Virginia or Northern Virginia or here in Central Virginia, saying they want to have the opportunity for their kids to be able to work in Virginia after they finished high school, trade school, college, and so it's good that you're looking ahead and your team's looking ahead to the jobs that will be out there a few years from now.
And listen, I get out of bed every day, David, realizing I have to compete against 49 governors and 200 nations around the globe. I like to win. I like Virginia to be #1, and we've had phenomenal success. Last year, I did 2 trade missions to China. We brought back more business, I think, than any state in America. We did the largest investment ever done in a greenfield by a Chinese company ever in their history, ever in America. We won that $2 billion investment, Tranlin Paper Company, 2,000 new jobs. We brought other businesses back. We've had tremendous announcements. So when you look at what parents are concerned about, are their children going to have a job? Now, what does that mean? We've got to give them a quality education first. That's why I've worked hard to reduce the number of SOLs. Our system got a little haywire. Our teachers were teaching to tests. Our children were learning how to memorize. That's not how you build a 21st century economy. Fixing transportation. You know, I inherited a lot of problems. 460, $300 million of taxpayer money had been wasted on a road, David, that not a single shovel had gone in the ground. A permit had not even been applied for. Are you kidding me? This is taxpayer money. So my job is to preserve taxpayer money, get a good return on our investment, and you do that by building the new economy, making Virginia open and welcoming to everyone, a transportation, healthcare delivery system, education system that works for everyone. That's what parents want, and that's what we work very hard to deliver for them.
You know, in addition to dealing with 460, which was even in the news again this morning as people are talking about that money that was lost and wasted, you also worked to change the way some of that funding is figured.
Well, listen, when I came in, I had to deal with a couple of very tough situations. 460, it's hard to even explain how the state could have contracted to do that deal, how we could have spent $300 million of taxpayer money. Now, when you build over hundreds of acres of wetlands, you have to get a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers. David, to get the permit, guess what? You have to apply for the permit. That was not even done.
Right.
People work too hard for their money. So I've had to deal with the 460 situation. I've instructed my Secretary of Transportation. I want negotiations, and if we can't get any of our money back, then I want you to, on behalf of, we have to go sue them. Why did we pay someone nearly $300 million? What did we get in return? I want to get that money back. But the Midtown Tunnel deal, one of the worst deals I've never, ever seen negotiated, ever, in all my years. So we, working with the General Assembly, came up with HB2 and the Omnibus Transportation Bill. HB2 prioritizes every transportation project. Worked very closely, Speaker Howell and I worked very closely together, bipartisan. As governor, tomorrow, David, I could say to my Secretary of Transportation, I want this road built. He could say, I could care less what you say, Governor, because it all has to go to a committee, to a prioritization process. Ease congestion, economic development, quality of life. But the omnibus bill that we also passed, working together, guarantees that every district, every planning district, every transportation district will be guaranteed money every single year. We have roads of we call statewide significance, so those big roads we're all going to work together on. But at the district level, you're going to compete against your neighbors. In Northern Virginia, you compete with Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, and you've got to figure out what's the best project to unlock your region. I also, the omnibus bill puts money, about $40 million in for rail. You know, we need to be doing more on rail. We got to get cars off the road. So I got to tell you, what we were able to work together in a bipartisan way, our transportation through the omnibus bill and the HB2, we are in such a better position than when I became governor, 16 months ago. We've taken the politics out of it. Let's invest the taxpayer money, return on investment on those roads that make sense, that grow our economy.
Governor, so often what people hear about what's happening at the Capitol is partisanship. You've said bipartisan twice, and you've worked with the Speaker.
Yep.
We could give a shout out to Delegate Chris Jones that you worked with, another Republican, to make the transportation issue something that was not a partisan issue, but it's an issue of concern to employers, employees, and to people throughout the Commonwealth.
You bet. David, people are sick and tired of the partisan politics.
Oh, they are.
I know what I have to do as governor. I understand I'm the chief job creator. That is my job. That's not partisan.
No.
That's bipartisan. And I worked very closely with Chairman Jones, Chairman Walter Stosh, John Watkins, Senator Watkins, Chuck Colgan. We all worked together, Senator Colgan. We got our budget done. Listen, I inherited a $2.4 billion budget deficit. We were able to work together in a bipartisan way. It was important for me. I said, we cannot have any cuts to K through 12. I want you to fund My Healthy Virginia to provide health care for up to 200,000 Virginians. It's not closing the coverage gap, but doing what I can do on my own, working with the General Assembly. Invest, give me the tools I need to compete to bring jobs to Virginia. I got all of that in the budget. So when it came time, people were shocked when I didn't do any amendments or any line item vetoes. I signed the budget. You know why? We sat in a room quietly. We worked like adults in a bipartisan say, what's the best for Virginia? That's what voters want. They're tired of what's going on in Washington today. We can't get a highway trust fund bill done. We have sequestration looming. You look at the insanity that we just went through on the national security issues just last weekend. People have had it. We are in a global economy today. America has to work together if we're going to compete and beat these countries. Virginia has to work together if I'm going to beat those other 49 states, which I love to do, and bring jobs from around the globe in. It's not complicated. Same as business. Got to put your best foot forward.
Governor, as you're bringing those jobs to Virginia, then that moves you to workforce and the work that you're doing on workforce development, because you could bring in more and we wouldn't have the people ready to do those jobs.
And you hit it right on the head, and this is what we talk about. And if you look, we got about 10 bills done on workforce development. Every governor, David, deals with this issue of workforce development. We spend millions and millions of dollars, state programs, federal programs. It was a hodgepodge, a jumble of different programs. There were no metrics to determine were we being successful. So we have legislation which we just passed, and I'll be making some major announcements over the course of the next month or two. I honestly believe that when we're finished doing what we're doing here, Virginia will be the leader in workforce development. Because I'm good at sales, I enjoy it, but you're right. The first thing a CEO who is sitting in Asia or Europe, when I meet with them and I tell them how great Virginia is, low taxes, business friendly, are you going to have a workforce for me, Governor, 10, 20, 30 years? Because you want me to invest 10, 20, 30, 40 million in a new factory. Are you going to have that workforce for me? It is the absolute guts, the crux of economic development. And I'm proud to say that what we've been able to accomplish in the last year in workforce development has taken Virginia, as I say, hodgepodge, waste of money, a lot of the programs, streamlined it, focus, metric driven. Let's get folks credentials. I've spent a lot of time working with our veterans. We should give our veterans credit for their military service. They have had a heck of an education over there protecting our great nation. They should get credit for their experience. Many of the jobs of the future, Dave, are not going to be 4-year degrees. Studies show that a majority are going to be significantly less than that, maybe a 2-year, maybe an apprenticeship. Let's do some credentialing. And so that's what we're focused on. I have 5 children. I love them all dearly. But what we don't want is our children getting out of higher ed with a lot of debt and not a skill set. And I just had a son last weekend graduate from the United States Naval Academy. He's going into the Marines, 2nd lieutenant. I know what he's going to do. And but for all of our children, I have one daughter that's, she's out now and she's saving elephants in Africa. Everybody sort of has a different focus, which I love people chasing their passion. But I do believe it's our responsibility as elected officials to build that workforce development and to make sure the education is giving them the skills to match the jobs of the future. And that's the key.
You know, we've had goals set for so many college graduates. You had an executive order, highly ambitious, which we would expect that you would go for the goal. The 50,000 credentials by the end.
And I talk about it a little different, David. It's a very good point. Other administrations, and listen, everybody sort of has. They talked about a certain number of degrees.
Yes.
I tell my education folks, please don't come into my office and talk to me about degrees. I go back to my basic point. A degree for the sake of a degree with a lot of debt and without a skill set does not help me at all. I talk about credentials because credentials mean you can move right into the workforce. I saw one report, 30,000 jobs open today in Northern Virginia in the technology space. David, these businesses aren't going to sit and wait for me to fill them. If we can't fill those jobs, they will move to another state. So I've called for 50,000 credentials by the time I leave office in the next 2.5 years. And by 2030, I've called for 500,000 credentials to be done. If we are able to attain that, David, Virginia will be the #1 state in America with credentials. And you know what? That means we're getting the jobs here. That means businesses are going to come to Virginia. We're going to lose a lot of folks through retirement. We're going to have a lot of new jobs created, and that'll show about 1.4 million retirements, new jobs created. We've got to make sure we're filling those jobs with credentials.
I think it's really going to require our higher ed folks, not just the ones who work for you and your
Yep.
administration,
Yep.
but at our colleges and universities to
Yep.
be looking at some retooling and reshaping some of their programs to
You
be
bet.
able to provide credentials.
Yeah, and first I talk about the community colleges. As you know, I'm a huge advocate.
Yes.
I'm the first governor to visit all the community colleges in Virginia. They are our real economic engines because they can move us through the credentials and the apprenticeships. On 4-year, you bet. And I've sat with all the presidents and said, keep tuition low because tuitions for many parents and many of our folks going to college are getting out of sight, way too high. But most importantly, make sure you're getting these students degrees that mean something. So, and I'm trying to get them to not act as much as silos when we work together as our colleges and universities. We have the best in the globe. Nobody can compete against us, but I can't have all these different colleges and universities in a silo without working with each other. I just had a great announcement the other day. I cut the ribbon. George Mason, the new biotech center they have up there. You know, I just did a shovel break at Inova Hospital, just purchased the Exxon Mobil site, 117 acres. David, in this site, we are going to be the global leader now in personalized medicine as it relates to cancer in this whole new genome sequencing. Dwight Scharr, I was up there the other day, just gave $50 million to help kick off that investment to build this facility. 117-acre site, working with our colleges and universities to bring the best researchers, the best scientists, the best students, graduate students, will now be in Virginia. We are going to be a global leader. I just announced this the other day, but all these other avenues of renewable energy that we can become a global leader on, cybersecurity, which the government's going to spend billions of dollars, the federal government, we need to be out front on that. The unmanned aerial vehicles, Virginia Tech is one of only 6 sites in America that is one of the testing facilities that we have. So we've got the assets. Putting them all together and making sure we're the best is what I think about every day.
You know, you mentioned the work you're doing on behalf of veterans and what veterans are doing. You recently had an announcement about a Commonwealth Center for Advanced Manufacturing, some training of veterans.
And that goes to my point that when the veterans come back, you have to understand we have about 800,000 veterans in Virginia out of a population of 8.4 million. So about 10%, very significant. That is a tremendous honor here in Virginia for us, David, but it also comes with a tremendous responsibility. When veterans come back, we want them to stay in Virginia. They're highly motivated, they are highly disciplined, and they are highly skilled. We've got to move them quickly into the workforce so they don't go to another state. What we announced at CCAM the other day, and we've announced at our community colleges and our 4 years, are programs to take that expertise, get them a credential, and move them right into the workforce immediately. I'm hoping soon, and listen, my father, I grew up around a table, was a World War II captain. I was in the Pacific theaters, Saipan, Tinian Islands. As I say, I just had a son commissioned second lieutenant in the Marines. Military is so important to Virginia. We have the largest naval base in the world. We have so many military assets, which I make the argument gives us a leg up over all those other states. But working with our veterans, making sure when they come back that we encourage them to stay or move to Virginia. And then we need to do our part through our education system and our private sector folks and public-private like CCAM, and to take those expertise, take their skill set, take their motivation, and drive them right into the workforce.
Governor, you mentioned healthcare earlier and some of the initiatives that you're doing on your own. What do you see, what will you be working on as far as trying to help close that coverage gap for others?
Yeah, and listen, you know, I advocate for closing the coverage gap. That's why almost every major business leader in the state supported our effort. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, most of the chambers of commerce. Why? No matter where you are in the new health care bill or what your personal opinion of the President of the United States is, really doesn't matter. The law is, right now, we pay on average about 13 taxes into the federal government now. That's the law. The United States Supreme Court validated that. We get 100% of that money back. So right now, Virginia forfeits about $1.8 billion. I come at this as a businessman, as a pragmatist. We have an opportunity, just as I work hard in the Fort Pickett announcement we worked very hard with Senator Warner and Kane to protect the George Washington aircraft carrier that they were going to deactivate. We can get 100% of this money back. We can do it in a manner that will not cost Virginia one penny. We can protect Virginia. The program ends, we end. We can do it when it comes off the 100%, ultimately drops down to 90. Have the private folks pick up that difference. We can structure a deal, David, where Virginia will have no financial obligation. And we can provide health care for 400,000 folks. Many of them, as you know, David, are working folks. Yes. I mean, if you're poor and at that poverty level, you're already on Medicaid. You already have it. This is what we call this gap of folks who are, many of them are working. They can't afford the deductible. The deductible is just too high. The premium is too high. And so they just forego. We need a healthy workforce. And as governor, I get $1.8 billion to run through our economy. You look at Kentucky, Arkansas, and talk to them about the job creation. Maryland, West Virginia. All of our neighbors have done this. And the most conservative governor in America, Michael Pence from Indiana, the Republican governor of Ohio, the Republican governor of Arizona. I go through all the list. I'm trying to take the partisan politics out of it. Let's do what's right for Virginia, and I'm hoping after we get through this year's elections, let's do it in a way, protect Virginia 100% so it will not cost the taxpayers a penny, and grow the economy and provide health care for 400,000. The last thing I'll say in this, David, because we haven't done it, those 400,000, many of them right now today are going to an emergency room.
Yes.
Who do you think, David, is paying for that? You are, the Virginia taxpayer. But unfortunately, you've already paid for them once. You're now paying twice. I just don't come from a school of thought that you pay for something double.
One of the successes in your administration, and I think of the General Assembly too, was working on the ethics legislation.
You bet.
And tell our viewers how that has ended up at this point.
Well, I couldn't be happier. The most important thing for me on the new ethics legislation, remember when I was sworn in, within 5 minutes, I signed an executive order to myself, my family, my administration, and their family, that they could not take a gift over $100. Nobody could do that over a $100 aggregate gift. I thought it important that the General Assembly get to where I was, or close to it, and we ended up getting passed out of the General Assembly and came over for signature. We now have a $100 gift ban, aggregate gift ban, on all contributions to our legislators. So they're matching where the executive branch is. It's great, David. It gives transparency. I didn't get everything I wanted. You know, I'd wanted, a commission to look at some of these things. But, listen, politics, life, business, everything is about compromise. You don't get everything you want in life. But I thought at the end of the day, I really put my shoulder to the grindstone on the $100 gift ban. I think it's important. It's great for transparency. When you come serve, in fairness, David, nobody should be giving you gifts over $100 anyways. If you want gifts above it, don't get in politics. Why is someone who has legislation before you giving you big gifts? Well, you know why that is. So I think we're in a great place today. And we work very closely with members of the General Assembly to get it done. Credit goes to everybody.
Governor, in the last minute, any comments on judicial vacancy? You've put something out for the public where you can go on your website, and we'll encourage them to go on there, and they could even suggest someone.
Yeah, I think transparency on our judiciary system is also important. So I've gone on my website, we've gone up. Anyone who wants to apply or make a recommendation to the Supreme Court, we have an appointment. The Virginia State Bar will make recommendations to me. As well, the people who've gone onto the website, and then my counsel's office and so forth will vet all the different candidates. I'm trying to have everything to my desk by July 1st, all the applications in and all the recommendations by July 1st. And then, Dave, it's my hope to make a decision very quickly after that. It's important, of course, as you know, to have a strong judiciary. It's important to grow our economy and have folks on the court who understand business issues. I mean, we're known as a great state for doing business, and we need to continue. I want a justice, who, like me, believes in, got to be very pro-business. I also believe that Virginia needs to be open and welcoming to everyone. Let's not be putting up walls around Virginia. If you want to come to Virginia and create a job, we want you here. So someone is open and welcoming, very pro-business, fiscally conservative, but understands the individual rights of the folks to make sure that We're the best state in America to start a business, raise a family, quality of life. We're number one. We got to keep that going.
Governor McAuliffe, thank you so much for being on This Week in Richmond, and wish you well in this trade mission. And some of our viewers will be seeing it, and you were there,
Great.
working on
Great.
behalf
All
of the
right, you bet.
Commonwealth.
Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
Honored to be with you.
Thank you.
This Week in Richmond is made possible in part by Dignity Memorial, caring for our communities with a network of funeral homes and cemeteries in Virginia and throughout North America. More information about Dignity Memorial's providers is online at dignitymemorial.com.
Alpha Natural Resources, a leader in mine safety and an environmental steward.
Haley Buick GMC in Richmond and online at haleybuickgmc.com. The Virginia Chamber of Commerce, the voice of the Virginia business community.
The Virginia Education Association, because a good education is good for everybody.
Additional support is provided by these sponsors. And by the members of Virginia's public television stations. Thank you.